We'll begin. Hello, welcome, and thank you for attending this week's live Thursdays at noon events. We begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Williams, Inhuron, Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis people on this land and show respect to them today. We acknowledge our neighbors, the Wata Mohawks, and the First Nations of Moose Deer Point, Shawanaga, Wasauksing, Magnetawan, Envy Inlet, Nipissing, and Doquis. Today, we have some candidates with us who are vying for your vote. Let me see if I see, do I see Scott? Has he gotten through? I see one that says owner. We thought we were going to have Scott Aitchison. He's having some trouble connecting, so hopefully we will see him. We also expect Mark Mantha to be with us. He is running for the Green Party. Jim Toll from the PPC said he was going to be here. The person we actually have is Heather Hay, who is running for the NDP. Not with us today because we haven't heard from her is Giovanni Nicoyishaki. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Giovanni. She's running for the Liberals, but she has not as of yet responded to any of our attempts to reach out. And hopefully if and when she does, then I will know how to pronounce her name. There are many hot issues in this election that no one seems to want. The first question that we're asking candidates to touch on today is about Canada's fractured relationship with the Indigenous people of this land due to a long history of systemic racism. We had thought that each candidate would have 5 minutes to discuss. Heather may just have a significant amount of time to discuss. So Heather, what would your party and what would you want to see folks doing to, or see the government doing to advance the calls to action in the Truth and Reconciliation Committee report? Oh, Heather's muted.
Mute myself there. There we go. We've heard a lot about the promises that have been made and the promises that have been broken. And I think it's important that we start by getting clean drinking water to all our communities. That promise has been delayed several times, so getting clean water. I think part of the key things for reconciliation is that we start with a true nation-to-nation relationship with our Indigenous neighbors. And that includes respecting Indigenous rights instead of fighting Indigenous First Nations kids in court. So one of the first things we would do is stop the court cases, making sure that we have clean drinking water, safe housing, and respectful, safe access to health care, and the underfunding of Indigenous children's services. Those are sort of some of the key messages that we have received from our Indigenous neighbors that would be a first step towards reconciliation.
Okay, thank you for that, Heather. I'm going to go to the phones in case I have perhaps Scott and Mark on the phone.
Mark is on the line. I can see his phone number here.
Okay, Arlie, which one is he?
416, the 416-272 number.
Okay, let's unmute him. Unmute Mark Mantha. Hi, is this Mark Mantha?
Yes, it is. How are you?
I'm well, Mark. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you very much for asking.
Excellent. If there's any way you can increase your volume on your end or speak a little more loudly, you're coming in very low.
How is this?
That's better. So, Mark,
okay.
The question on the table right now is, what would your party and what would you yourself want to see your party doing to advance action on the Truth and Reconciliation committee's calls to action?
The work and calls to action for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission were completed back in 2015, and only a few of those 94 calls to action were implemented. And I would say, in the words of Justice Murray Sinclair, that Canada must move from apology to action, because everyone is worthy, and justice and respect for all the peoples of Canada. Going beyond that, adding to the general curriculum in our education to put back pages of history that have been missing there. I've always been involved in one way or another, even through Elections Canada, as working with as a polling supervisor on in two of the different communities here in our area of Parry Sound-Muskoka. And even each community also has, I would say, their own kind of characteristics, where some are a little bit more standoffish, even in participating maybe in the federal elections. But I guess I was able to bridge a little bit of a gap there because of I am Métis, and I think we were able to foster a little bit of a relationship to make that more welcoming. And in fact, we did improve participation as well. And it was a great opportunity to foster relationships there too. In the district, we also, pre-COVID, we had a roundtable too, and the district was there also. And we had an opportunity to all get together and all have a conversation on improving relations and what our points of view were in perspectives. And it was really beautifully respectful too. There's a lot of work to do with the 94 calls to action, and the 94 calls to action on their own really is a way to move forward.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. I'm going to see, we have also a 705 that ends with 4795. Maybe that's Scott or Jim. Scott or Jim, do we have you on the phone? Okay, looks like we do not. So, do we have any questions? I see that we do have questions from folks on the line relating to climate. Is there anybody on the line that would like to ask these candidates questions on the Indigenous relationship, on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, on what you'd like to see them do going forward? Do we have anybody on the call who'd like to speak to that? Okay, then we will move to our next question. So, and we do have questions in the group chat about this, about the environment. We want to know if the party will end subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. We have a caller saying that they would like to know why their party's climate plan is better than the others. So the question, Heather, to you first is, so climate, Parry Sound-Muskoka's environment. What is your position there?
I'm going to unmute my mic now.
Thank you.
The NDP has a very comprehensive plan online. I see somebody else is trying to come through. Is that a screen? I'm not sure if that's a phone. A phone number is making noise, and they're picking precedence.
Oh.
Because my picture's not coming up anymore. I'm just seeing a big screen, green phone there.
Mm-hmm. Well, just go ahead, Heather, and we'll come back to them.
Okay, so the NDP has a comprehensive plan. It's all online. You can look at all the details there. The key thing for us is that we do have a plan to cut the emissions by more than half and meet the 1.5 degree target that the scientists say is the tipping point, or to avoid catastrophe. So we do have details in there. One of the key things that we are going to do as a party is to create thousands of good paying jobs by investing in clean energy, energy retrofits of buildings, changing or investing in transit so that we have efficient ways to move people around, and building affordable, efficient homes for members of our community. We've got a commitment to make 500,000 affordable homes for Canadians.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Mark, would you like to speak? Oh, okay. Who is that wanting to speak?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, it's Jim Toll.
Oh, hi, Jim. All right, thank you. Thank you.
I've been trying to get through. I can't get through on the video thing at all. I've tried and and I've been having trouble with the phone here too.
Okay,
so,
well,
but anyway, I'm ready to go.
We do hear you
I'm ready to go.
clearly. We do hear you clearly, Jim. So the question that we asked the candidates already, we'll step back so that you can express your views. So what would you and your party do to advance the actions called for by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission?
Well, first of all, there's 94 calls to action, and some of them have been acted upon, and some of them haven't been acted upon. Our party states that many injustices have been committed in the past by the Canadian government towards Indigenous people. Now, we can't rewrite the past, but we can only seek the best way to live together harmoniously in the future in a relationship based on mutual respect and a balanced approach, taking into account the needs of the Indigenous population and the interests of the Canadian population as a whole. So some actions that the People's Party government would take would be to explore options to replace the paternalistic Indian Act, which keeps Indigenous people in a state of dependency and allows the federal government to control most aspects of their lives, and replace it with a new legal framework that guarantees equal rights and responsibilities to Indigenous peoples as Canadians and promotes self-reliance of communities. And People's Party government would also respect our Constitution and treaties, reaffirm the federal government's power to approve natural resources and infrastructure projects after adequate consultations with the affected Indigenous groups and in partnership with them, to ensure that they can benefit from these economic opportunities. Okay, another issue is the lack of real private property on reserves, and our party feels it's in part responsible for the poor state of housing and social ills that derive from it. And it's one of the greatest impediments to economic development. So a People's Party government will explore further avenues to promote the establishment of individual property rights and reserves so as to empower its residents and give them increased control over their lives. Okay, so that's our sort of our plan of action there.
That's your platform. And
yes.
In terms of the 94 calls to action, you are saying that you would want to see them advanced.
Yes, so we want to address the injustices that were committed in the past by Canadian governments towards Indigenous peoples. Yes, those are the calls to action, and this is our approach: is to start by exploring options to replace the Indian Act with a new legal framework and move forward from there. Because you can't rewrite the past; you have to move forward and try to get along as best as possible. Okay, so
Okay, thanks for that, Jim.
That's our platform on that.
Okay, and so our second question is about climate change. What would your party do to tackle climate change and to protect the Parry Sound-Muskoka environment?
Okay, now on the issue of climate change, the Liberal government is spending billions of dollars at home and abroad to fight global warming or climate change. And so in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, it imposed taxes and countless regulations. And it also subsidizes inefficient and costly green technology. And it's blocking the development of oil resources crucial to our prosperity. Okay, so there's natural instances throughout history about natural climate change and things like this. But what we want to do is not have it from the top down. We want to allow the provinces to have a green carbon tax if they wish, but we're going to leave it to them if they wish to do that. So, so our government would, a PPC government would abolish the carbon tax, also withdraw from the Paris Accord, and abandon unrealistic greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets. So that's what we would do. Sort of decentralize, leave it up to the provinces. If they want to have a carbon tax, that's fine. Okay, but all that being said, there's nothing to stop individuals from taking action on their own as well. So, for instance, good example would be to buy goods made here in this country instead of importing them from other countries and the greenhouse gas emissions that come along with it. I would rather support a local business here in Canada for my goods and save those greenhouse gas emissions that come from transportation and buy local. And even if I had to pay more for a well-made product made here in Canada, I'd be willing to do so. So buy local is one way you could act as an individual and empower yourself as an individual to do something about greenhouse gas emissions. Another approach too is to just simplify your life. Do without, if it's not really necessary, do without certain things. That's the way I live my life. If I don't need it, then I do without. I try as much as possible to buy goods that are made here in Canada instead of buying goods made overseas. I'd rather support my neighbors here in my community than have the dollars go out of the country. So other things, I said we withdraw from the Paris Accord and abandon the unrealistic greenhouse gas emissions and so on. Also abolish subsidies for green technology. Let the private players, so private sector, develop profitable and efficient alternatives.
Okay,
so
Jim.
basically, that's our platform right there.
Okay, thank you for that. Mark Mantha,
Okay.
we'd like to go back to you on the call. So Mark, climate change, protecting the environment at Parry Sound-Muskoka, what is your party's plan and what is your own feeling on that?
Well, the Green Party presented a detailed plan for tackling the climate crisis during the 2019 election.
I'm sorry, Mark, we're just having a hard time hearing you. Can you please try to speak more loudly? I'm sorry.
Okay. How is this? Can you hear me now?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, the Green Party presented a detailed plan for tackling the climate crisis during the 2019 election. It's called Mission Possible. So we didn't have to come up with a shiny new plan for 2021 because it was the best plan then and it's the best plan now. There is one thing that has changed, and that's the urgency to act now. So that means MPs working together across party lines, no matter who leads the next minority government. So we need to shift funding programs from things that make it worse and replace them to mitigate the crisis. Climate-friendly solutions will also make our lives better because by adding clean, fast, efficient, and convenient electrified public transit and electric trains, buses, and vans, as all part of the plan for the return to passenger rail, and not to pretend either that hydrogen that is derived from fracked fossil gas is part of that solution either, because green recovery stimulates our local and regional businesses.
Okay, so that plan possible, can you break that down for us a bit?
Well, it's a 20-point plan. It might take a little while, but I would invite everybody to take a look at the website. I'm pretty sure if you Google Green Party of Canada Mission Possible, you'll be able to get to that link, and anyone's welcome to message me on Facebook, and I'll gladly share that link. Actually, I will post it on my Facebook page. Okay,
all right. Thank you for that. So we have 2 questions on the info. No, we have 4. We have, how do you heat your home? And how are you going to get off natural gas? From Oliver Klimek. Heather, would you like to talk about natural gas? Do you use it? What do you use? Oh, can't hear you, Heather.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
It's not muted. All right. I have a wood stove and a propane furnace that I use to heat my home.
Okay. And is there...
I'm not attached to natural gas. It's not an option for me. So
it's not an option for you. I too heat with wood, but I heat with wood and I do heat with natural gas. Mark Mantha, is natural gas worse than propane or other heating options?
A fossil fuel is a fossil fuel, and it adds greenhouse gases. In my home, it was a real challenge to build and design my home to building code, because National Building Code needs to be more innovative so that people like me, and it's a very, and the movement is very much growing tiny homes and mini homes. I heat my home with a wood stove, but because of the really, the design is very simple. It takes out a lot of technology, and it's all about building a really good box that is very well insulated. I used a very simple method of staggered studs, which breaks the thermal bridges in the wall, and it's not really recognized by building code, but just one of the many examples. National Building Code is one area where I could certainly have an impact. I do have a propane heating, but with the design of my home and how it's placed, and the colder the day is, if it's down to minus 30 or minus 40 degrees, by 10:30, I don't have to burn, I don't have to add anything to the wood stove. The propane furnace is rarely, if ever, turned on, because at minus 40 degrees on a sunny winter day, by 10:30, it'll be about 23 to 24 degrees in my home, burning no fossil fuels. And I have a big smile on my face when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know, 3 of us so far have said that we burn wood, and it's still, you're still releasing carbon, right, when you're burning wood.
Yep.
Tamsin Tilson wonders if anyone can tell her what sustainable natural gas is. So Jim, we'll go to you because we haven't asked you yet. How do you heat your home? And do you know what sustainable natural gas is?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
We can hear you. We hear you so much better than Mark. I don't know why.
Okay, all right. So we use propane here to heat our house here. It's a modest sized house out in the country, so it's not, there's just a few houses around here. we're not
Mhm.
equipped to have to burn wood or anything, but we use propane. Now, sustainable natural gas, you said? Is that what
Yes. Do you know what that
about there?
is?
Well, natural gas is methane, so it has one carbon atom, excuse me. So, it's not as much carbon in it as, say, propane, and certainly less than oil, for instance. But, we live in a cold climate here, and we have to heat our house with something. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just an unfortunate reality, the way we are. So.
Tamsin, not to put you on the spot, Tamsin Tilson, but can you tell us? I'm asking Tamsin Tilson now if she's willing to speak. Hi, Tamsin. I know that you unmuted yourself, and yet I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just saw a report, and I saw it through one of the chambers of commerce, and it was, and I'm sorry, I didn't know what the plan was, but it was a small business report through a chamber of commerce. I think it might have been provincial, and I'm very concerned with climate, so I was looking for a mention of climate, and it was toward the end, and they said something about sustainable natural gas, and I was like, what the heck is that? That's all.
Mhm.
So I and I know that in Parry Sound-Muskoka, the provincial government has recently announced that it was going to be expanding a natural gas pipeline, and to me, this is going in the wrong direction. I know that was provincial, but I just wanted to raise it, so that was
Mhm.
all.
Would any of the parties have a plan that would address people in an area like Parry Sound-Muskoka, where we have a super cold winter? We don't seem to have, maybe in Parry Sound near Georgian Bay, there's a wind option, but solar option if you're in the woods like I am here. I don't get very much sun, quite honestly. I know folks have some sustainable homes built. Arlie, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to mention when you ask about plans for alternatives that renewable is really quite a functional option, and that there is a pilot project going on in Parry Sound with it's actually cooperation with Bracebridge Hydro, or Lakeland as it's also known, to do solar with large battery packs and so forth. And hang on just a second, because I think Mark is trying to help us out by being closer to his phone, and that's why we're getting interference from his phone. So
Mark, do you have comments on this?
I know I'm just going to just wanted to pass that on to him. I've been trying to text him to tell him that he's touching the phone and it's making a problem.
Okay.
So anyway, just to say that the project is called Speedier, and it's worth looking into. The Green Party favors local renewable sources so that we're not relying on one major grid that can have points of failure and that involves a lot of transmission. So those are just a couple of the points.
Okay, thank you, Arlie. Karen.
Yes, I'd like to say that, Alberta is a perfect example. Canadian, across Canada, they are the cleanest emissions province going, and they are the heaviest in producer of our resources, of which all provinces have partaken in their equalization payments. Their natural gas, propane, is plentiful as it is in Ontario, and it is the least footprint. You talk about renewables, we don't have storage for batteries. Batteries by themselves present a huge footprint, much bigger than any of the fossil fuels at this point. So I would suggest that Ontario, to be not frozen out, to have natural gas, which is cheap. We are sending it through Pembina, have been doing it for mega decades, cheap, because they get 30% off the national or the international price. Why aren't Canadians here in all the provinces? I think you need to ask some of the elite families that question, because there are some that are blocking the east-west and north-south, which is what Canada needs, as well as Ontario. We have an announcement in the province that they're going to be doing about 8,000 homes in the north, which is, hey, wood heat is the worst footprint going, unless you're using higher technology, which again, you have to have access to, then you have to have access to that technology. So I would like to say a big up for natural gas, and I'm so happy that they're finally moving on it here in Canada as far as Ontario is concerned. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that perspective. So we have a follow-up question. How will your party help homeowners retrofit their homes so they are energy efficient? Heather, do you have a response to that?
Yes, the NDP is planning on creating many new jobs in doing energy retrofits for buildings. We've got buildings changing their use after the pandemic. We've had a shift in how we are operating and doing business. So employing people to do those energy retrofits is a huge part of our plan, the climate plan moving forward. And that would include some subsidies for homeowners to do energy retrofits within their homes as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Heather. Jim Toll, can you respond to that question?
About what we do about retrofitting homes?
Yes, how would you support people to retrofit their homes?
Okay, well, there is no specific policy on that on our platform. However, one of the main policies of the People's Party of Canada is reducing tax rates overall for businesses and individuals. So that would free up money for people that wanted to retrofit their house.
Okay, thank you.
By the way,
Mark.
the house I live in is a very efficient house to heat as well, because it's very, very well insulated. So, and the furnace goes down to about 60 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. So don't use very much propane gas to heat this place. So, okay. That's all I have to say right now.
Thanks, Jim. Mark Mantha, retrofitting.
And how are we doing? Can you hear me okay?
That is better.
Oh, okay. It's by really shifting subsidies and resources from programs that cause problems with the climate emergency. And by shifting that to creating millions of new jobs, well-paying jobs in the trades by retrofitting every building in Canada, residential, commercial, and institutional, to be carbon neutral.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. We have another question for the candidates, which is, do you drive an electric car? And why or why not? Heather.
No, I don't. I don't have the resources to purchase an electric car. I did buy a car secondhand so that I know that is an important part. And I do have a car that's very energy efficient, and it uses low mileage or not much gas to operate.
Okay, thank you. Heather. Jim, do you drive an electric car? Why or why not?
No, don't drive an electric car. It's drive a very fuel efficient Honda Civic, and it's great on gas. We only drive when we need to. We don't drive for any other reason. And electric cars are quite pricey too. So we're happy with what we have. We try to simplify our life here. So we're acting as individuals instead of having regulations come from the top down. We're acting proactively on our own to reduce our carbon footprint.
Okay, thank you for that. Jim. Mark, what do you drive?
I drive a 2003 Toyota Corolla. I've just changed the catalytic converter, and it's really great on mileage, but I just might be poised to get an EV. I had a chance to have a lift in one of those, and it was with Arlie when we went to file our do our nomination filing in Huntsville. We've had some very long conversations about everything about the vehicle, and it's really encouraging, and who knows, I might be joining in.
Okay, Arlie, you've had your hand up.
I just forgot to take my hand down.
Okay, thank you for that. Arlie does say in the chat that the price of electric cars has come down substantially, and maybe that will help more folks be able to change over to that. What is each party's position on the trial balloon of stopping fossil fuel cars? Karen is saying that this is a liberal policy in 2035. Would you prohibit fossil fuel cars in the future, Heather?
I think we're all aiming to be eliminating the use of fossil fuels as we move forward, as the technology, and right now there's concern about the batteries and the mining for the batteries and the recycling of batteries for electric cars. But technology is improving. I think all parties are looking forward to, all Canadians are looking forward to operating cars more efficiently, investing in transit, so that we don't have to use our cars. Having an efficient transit system would improve, would reduce emissions as well. So I'm not sure exactly what the NDP, I'd have to check to see what the NDP plan is in terms of dates for eliminating fossil fuels, but that's something that we're all moving forward towards.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Jim, would you prohibit fossil fuel cars?
Well, let me start by saying our party doesn't have a policy on that just yet, but personally speaking, I wouldn't think I would support that. People's Party of Canada is always about freedom of choice. So if you want to have a fossil car that burns gas, fine. If you want to buy an electric car, fine too. The choices there. Now another thing is with electric cars are recharging stations. So if you live in a place like I live, which is just very remote and there's just a few houses around, not very practical. There's also got to look at the greenhouse gases involved in producing the electricity that you use to charge a car with as well. Okay, so those that's a factor to consider too. So recap, no, I wouldn't ban it for everybody. It should be a choice, all right? So let the individual decide how they want to approach this issue.
Okay, Mark Mantha, would you prohibit?
Well, the climate crisis is real. It's not that it's going to happen, it's happening right now. The one thing that really needs a lot of consideration is that there are vulnerable people out there who are sort of like on the edge, where they do have transportation and they do have a car now. So there needs to be some kind of support for those people because, well, particularly out here in Muskoka, when people have to travel to their jobs, they're going to need transportation. So that could maybe also be helped with public transportation that's reliable. We've really taken a stab at the public transportation part a number of times, and it really does have its challenges, but we are trying. So that would be the second consideration too, is increasing public transportation with clean electric vehicles.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. So we're getting to the end of this week's town hall. I'll give the candidates a couple of minutes now to wind up. There is somebody on the phone, on this iPhone, that I'm going to unmute just in case that's a candidate who wasn't able to join us. Hello, iPhone. Is this a candidate? I don't think it is. Okay, all right. So a couple of minutes to wind up today. Heather, what would you like your parting words to be?
One of the additional things I think in terms of the truth and reconciliation is we need to make it personal, and I think that it's great to have a party platform, but one of the things I would like to do is to take one of those items, those 94 items each week, and work through it with my staff and pick one thing we can do to move that item forward. And I think our relationship to Indigenous people and the land is critical to any actions that we take moving forward. And if anybody has further questions, you can find more information at heatherhay.ndp.ca.
Thank you, Heather. Jim, how would you like to wind up today?
Well, I would just like to wind up today by saying that the People's Party of Canada is all for freedom, personal responsibility, fairness, and respect. And those four beliefs shape all our policies. So it's a grassroots, more of a grassroots party. So empowers the individual to act on different issues as an individual instead of having regulations imposed upon them from the government. So that, in terms of the issues we talked about today, our party takes that approach. It should come from the individual, not more regulations, not more rules from the government, the other way around. The government works for us, we don't work for them.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Mark Mantha, do you have parting words for us today?
I use this word a lot, and it's really important. It's collaboration, and that's to work together across party lines. Economic policy in these last 50 years, it really has not produced any real improvements in the quality of life for Canadians. And so I support sustainable local and regional businesses for prosperous, healthy, and inclusive communities. And I need to emphasize again that shifting subsidies from programs that make the climate crisis worse and costly to programs that foster things like regional farms for food security, construction, sustainable tourism, and fast, clean, efficient, and convenient electric public transportation, and attainable housing for everyone. Thank you.
I think we've lost you, Mark. Okay, all right. Thank you for that. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Next week, September 9th, hopefully tech will work for everybody. And our questions to the candidates will be, what is your plan to help support local businesses and the Parry Sound-Muskoka economy in their post-COVID recovery? And how will your party tackle Canada's housing crisis? How will you use your position to alleviate the crisis in Parry Sound-Muskoka? Then on September 16th, we're going to ask, in your opinion, what are the three most important issues facing the riding today, and how will you address them? We hope that all of the candidates can be with us, and we hope that you can be with us too. Oh, sorry, it looked like, never mind.
Well,
and we're hoping that you can be with us.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
You'll be there? Okay.
Yes,
Excellent.
yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you
All right.
all for joining us today. See you
bet.
next Thursday at noon.
Okay.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.